2020 was one of the worst year of not just anime, but of our life. 2021 was special cause of that. We had a bunch of unique animes that we all loved, that we could finally talk about. 2022 was a lot more than that, filled with animes that after years and years of delay, we could finally see the light of. And thanks to that, we never had a better year of anime before. Thanks to that, 2022 was revolutionary. This year we had so many amazing animes that I genuinely had a hard time picking out my 15 favorite ones. This list originally started out as a top 10, that turned into a top 15 somehow. Maybe I should have made it top 20. So before we get into that, let's talk about everything else that didn't make the list. I think we all know what every isekai is about. Weep dice in a laughable way, isekai into 15th century Europe with magic, have to kill Demon Lord. Despite that, we finally got some that try to be unique like Ya Boy Call Me. Here we got a legendary Chinese tactician being isekai'd into modern day Tokyo, connecting with the current world through something that existed even in his time, through music. A really unique concept that had a lot of passion behind it with music that actually sounds good. But it wasn't even the only one that tried to be different. We also had Uncle in Another World, which is a post-isekai, where we get to experience what life would be like if you suddenly missed out on everything that happened in the last 20 years. It's just really fun to see him realize what is possible these days, and just how many things work differently. The elf VTuber was also kinda hot. But we also just had a bunch of classic ones like the Eminence in Shadow or Skeleton Knight in Another World that I really enjoyed. Shield Hero was also... You know what, it doesn't matter. There is one thing that drastically changed in the past few years, and that is the quality of the animes. Nowadays every show looks insanely good, has great sound design, OSTs, CGI, maybe not that. This also means that we are going to have a lot more animes that might look perfect, but story-wise we are just going to be like, what was that? What did I just watch? With Engage Kiss we already got a taste of that. It was beautiful. But direction-wise it's like melted chocolate on a cheese pizza. Some people might like it, but it just doesn't work together. Ruby was in the exact same situation. It was like Oreos dipped in orange juice. What the fuck? Some didn't even have the privilege to have good animation. Shinobi no Ittoki was unique, revolutionary, it achieved being the worst anime of the year. It's a perfect example of how not to make an original anime. It wasn't just bad, but also insanely stupid. You have this guy that is insanely acrobatic, strong, smart, has good decision making, but as soon as it matters, they just turn him off. He just forgets how to act like a human. In the last few years, we got to experience the uprising of relationship-type animes, where the characters just refuse to get together, and we had a lot of those this year. Aharen-san and When Will Ayumu Make His Move was both cute. I really enjoyed the dynamic of the main characters. But we also had something a lot bigger. Something a lot more important than that. In the first quarter of the year, Marin took over the internet. It was clear that she will be waifu of the year. But someone was ready to claim the throne, Shikimori-san. So let's just see how Giguk felt about it before it started.
That is it, guys. That is the face of best girl. Guys, come on.
Spoiler alert, she wasn't. We also had a sequel for some. Komi-san and Uzaki-chan continued what they are good at. Absolutely not. It was also a good year for slice of life. The Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting, the Aimon, Do It Yourself were all really fun and wholesome. We also got a bit of Dr. Stone this year, which finally bring back the feeling of why we liked the show in the first place. And finally we also had a Gundam that follows a completely new story, so it's a perfect one for anyone that wants to see what a Gundam is like, but just didn't know where to start. Now that we covered everything else, let's get into the top 15.
Shall we? Cheers, my friends.
We live in an era of anime where every second one contains some sort of romance elements, so it's really hard to make something unique. More Than a Married Couple But Not Lovers was a huge surprise for me. It's nothing special nor unique, but rather just something relaxing, sweet and cute. A generic rom-com, yet I just cannot get over the fact that how much I enjoyed it despite its flaws. We have two girls, Shiori and Akari, that are both in love with the same guy. Shiori already had feelings for him, while Akari developed it throughout the show. Wait a minute, this is just Toradora mixed with Oregairu. Yes, and that's why it's so good. Its characters are nothing special, you can understand what they are like pretty quickly. The story is generic, with a little bit of its own unique spin on it. but it doesn't even try to be something more than what it is. It takes all these generic elements and presents it in a way that it actually feels fun and enjoyable. It's just two girls trying their best to convey their feelings in their own way. I especially like the last episode where he went to a date with both of them and experienced what life would be like with them. It's generic, it's sometimes even degenerate, but it's something that made me laugh, made my day better, and that is something that means a lot to me. Some of us perceive the night as dangerous and scary, and some others perceive it as a time when they can let themselves go, forget about their problems, about their everyday life. Call of the Night presents us a story where the night is viewed as a beautiful time, where you can have the time of your life. At least at first sight. What drew me into the manga and later on the anime was the world itself, that everything revolves around the nighttime, the dark, something that we usually think of as scary. Yet this show presents it in a way that gives us a completely different perspective. It presents it as something beautiful. The story itself is a typical romance with a small spin in it that one of them is a vampire. Well, Nazuna is around 40 years old and Ko is 14, but as my grandma used to say, age is just a number. I didn't even really care that much about the endpoint of the story. I just love the idea that we can learn about people's everyday life, about why they are awake. Everyone is different. Some might just like to be awake at night, some just can't sleep, some just wakes up early. Everyone has different reasons, and the writer spends time explaining each of them in its own unique way. It's fun, it's interesting, it's engaging, something truly unique. Blue Lock haven't even finished, but it's taken over every single sport anime, possibly becoming one of the most popular one. Sport animes usually showcase the world of competitive sports, the passion and determination of the athletes who play them, the importance of teamwork, rivalries, individuals, the tension and drama that arises from these, but not in the case of Blue Lock. It takes all these elements and either pushes it to the max or flips it upside down. Blue Lock is strictly football and everything they do relates to it in some sort of way. Every conversation, every thought, literally everything. For me, the idea of hundreds of strikers fighting for a chance to become the best in the world sounded fun, but the fact that there are no other type of players kind of defeated the purpose of it. They can dribble past someone that was never a defender, they can score against someone that was never a goalkeeper, but that doesn't mean they can do it against someone that played those positions for their whole life. Despite that, what made it fun for me, what instantly catch my eye was actually these scenes where we follow all these individuals, how they can create goals for themselves, the pace of it, the narrative, the art style, the glowing eyes, the impact you can feel from these shots. It's just really fun to watch. Instead of a sport anime, just think of it as a shonen, as a battle royale, but instead of weapons and superpowers, we just have different kind of skills. It's an understatement to say that Demon Slayer was one of the most popular yet hated show this year. Shounen is probably one of the most well-known genre of anime. They are easy to understand, the characters are simple and it's full of action that quality and choreography wise looks insanely good. But giving an opinion about them is just a death trap. No matter what you say, one of the side of the spectrum is going to hate you. So trigger warning boys, put on the armor and swords. I'm going to tell you my opinion. Demon Slayer was... Even if you like it or not, Demon Slayer became a worldwide sensation. Episode 19 is one of the most popular episodes of all time. Mugen Train became the highest grossing anime movie, taking over Spirited Away. It's not that hard to understand why it's so popular. It looks pretty good. That's why it became so popular in the first place. But that is not good enough in itself. Entertainment District Art proved us why it's so entertaining. It's just pure hype. Every episode, every single moment. Usually there is only one moment that stands out. We can even say that about season 1. But in the Entertainment District Art, there was fights after fights with no break in between. Ufotable shown us that everything they do is movie quality. The characters might be generic, but they are written well enough that we care about them, about what happens with them. It's just fun to watch, and there is no reason to overcomplicate it. As I said earlier, this kind of genre, the best girl genre, the "you will never get this, you will never get this, la 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 la" genre absolutely took over the internet in the past few years. It always starts out the exact same way. We have an average looking, introverted guy, almost like they know what their audience looks like, And we have a girl that is the definition of perfection. Well, at least until they realize how she's not like the other girls. Look, she likes anime, she's so quirky, she cannot stop talking, she's so different. I'm a complete degenerate and I really like these animes, but I always had a problem with them. Everyone always asks, who's the best girl? But no one asks, who's the best boy? This year my dress up darling took this genre to a completely new level by just absolutely blowing out the competition in the winter season. Demon Slayer, Attack on Titan, pfft, not even close. Well, how they did it? Marine. That's it. It's just a horny show that has top tier quality animation where every penny was spent on showing off her assets, and even if you didn't care about it, you just couldn't run away from it. You looked at Twitter,
Bang, bang, bang.
Reddit,
Bang, bang, bang.
Doujins. Okay, let's not talk about that. But there was another side of it that made this show unique and made it stand out from all the other ones. It represents a real situation that most people can relate to. Being lonely, not having a lot of friends, having a hard time getting out of your comfort zones are all real problems, and this whole anime is about a person pushing out another one from its comfort zone. From an outside perspective, it looks like he's just helping out Marin without getting anything in return. But it's exactly the opposite. He gets to experience something that is much more than a simple cosplay. He experiences what living a life is like. Unlike its competition, Ashi was a football anime that tried to be as realistic as possible. It created a world full of lessons and hardships in both football and life, where you don't need to understand nor like the sport to appreciate it. Even just in the first few episodes, it portrayed the hardships the athlete, their family and friends must struggle with. How he has to sacrifice everything just to get a slim chance at making it. Ashito is really passionate about football, but the anime doesn't even try to portray him as someone that is outstanding or insanely talented at it, but just average at best. It showcases how he doesn't understand his own capabilities, how much he lags behind even at the most basic things, yet just refuses to give up on it. He should have done something better, he spends the whole night practicing it. The show constantly develops him, then applies these small things into his game, no matter what it is. A way to shoot, a touch, a simple pass, just looking around. It's insanely realistic, but what made this show outstanding for me was the moment where they just completely broke Ashito down. He was a striker, he practiced like no one else. All he ever wanted to do on the field was to play the striker positions and score goals. And it finally felt like he's capable of doing that. Yet the manager demoted him and made him a defender. Such an unexpected twist, yet it made so much sense. Ashi sometimes can feel a bit slow, a bit boring. It takes a lot of time explaining and showcasing different kinds of strategies, but if you genuinely enjoy sport animes, you're really going to like it. Attack on Titan is back once again, baby. If you thought that final season meant final season, you were dead wrong. Attack on Titan Final Season Part 2 continued to showcase what was so great about Part 1, that turned into a completely new genre with new settings, with characters we never heard about. Took all this risk, yet succeeded. And I thought that Part 2 couldn't achieve anything near close to that, yet it was just as good if not better than Part 1. Memories of the Future and From You 2000 years ago was by far the two best episodes of anime I've ever seen. The quality of Isayama's writing just completely blew my mind. The way it all connects through the entire story, the way it went from Zeke showcasing the past to Eren controlling it was genius. The OSTs, the animation, it was all perfect. Not to talk about the backstory of Ymir, which was just brutal overall. I really like the way Eren's character developed throughout the story, and now making a full circle explaining it. He was someone that just wanted to save everyone from the Titans, yet the vision and the immense pressure just completely made him collapse, made him believe that there was genuinely no other way of fixing things. Everything turned for the worse ever since the end of Season 3 Part 2. Suddenly no one knew what to do, strategically nothing made any sense, all because of a decision that should have never happened. Now we just continue to see the fruit of that in Part 2, and who knows what's next. Anime Originals has been a thing ever since anime exists. Some of the most popular anime movies are originals, like the Ghibli movies or Your Name, or a lot of old shows like Evangelion, Cowboy Bebop, Fully Cooley and a bunch of other. Lycoris Recoil became one of my favorite shows this year thanks to its unique and really likable characters, the dynamic between them, the way how they balance action and slice of life so well, a little bit of fan service, and we can't forget how goddamn good this show looks. Pretty much goes from cute girls doing cute things to cute girls killing with gas, to possible endless crying and pain. The characters are the most worthy of utmost praise in this show. Chisato's character is brilliant. She's the strongest Lycoris by far, who takes her stance and does what is most important for her. She doesn't care about the opinions of others. She doesn't worry about things she can't control, and she's an incredibly positive influence. Takina is just as great. She's shown as the more mature person compared to Chisato, always calm, serious. Yet whenever she's with Chisato, who puts her into situations she never experienced, she kind of just falls apart, which creates some of my favorite scenes from the show from a comedic point of view. Not to talk about how great every other side character is. It's a slice of life that revolves around the characters with a mix of ideas that can make us laugh and cry from one moment to another. There was clearly a lot of passion and a lot of effort put into this anime, from all the way to the scriptwriters to the animators. It was something that I really enjoyed. I have to say I'm quite biased when it comes to anything that has time traveling, as it's my favorite genre of anime and I'm just a sucker for this kind of stories done right. Summertime Render isn't exactly a unique concept. We had time-traveling murder, mystery, horror animes before, yet it has managed to provide an enjoyable experience from start to finish. The execution of the story, with characters that are realistic, intelligent, that isn't written in some kind of unrealistic super genius way, but rather in a more reasonable and believable way with a decent amount of depth. I especially enjoy the way the main duo work together. Shinpei is one of the better protagonists when it comes to time-traveling animes. He analyzes situations and makes decisions that doesn't annoy the viewer. We also get quite a lot of scenes that are just about his inner monologue, which makes us understand what kind of character he is. Ushi on the other hand is a lot more straightforward character who acts on her own, says out whatever she thinks and does however she feels, which complements Shinpei quite well and covers for his weak points. The antagonists are just as great. They are not stupid unlike in some other anime. Erased. They noticed all the weaknesses that Shinpei had and actually acted upon it, making the story really entertaining and keeping the viewers engaged all the way to the end. Any other year, Spy Family would be at the least in my top 3. There were just so many other animes that I just had to put higher. Obviously, that doesn't take anything away from it. Spy Family has taken the community by storm. The sheer quality and consistency of entertainment it was able to provide was outstanding. Its simple yet complex and unique characters felt like a breath of fresh air, mixed with a genuinely funny sense of humor and gut-busting comedic timing that cannot be replicated. Every character is just delightfully lovable almost instantly despite having quite a hefty amount of them. It's something that was worth the hype. It provides us a pretty simple story of a spy, an esper, and an assassin living together as a family without either of them having any knowledge about it. Yeah, and you bond. Nothing unique, yet it was written in a way that felt refreshing, like nothing even close to it was ever done before, which makes it even more impressive. I don't even know what to say. Love is War is the exact opposite of what I like in a romantic comedy. The reason why I really enjoyed the romance side of something like Horimiya or Bunny Girl Senpai was cause the two main characters actually got together in the first few episodes, and in Love is War that is not really the case. Despite being introduced to it as a romance, it doesn't really try to be one. You know, when we talk about romantic comedies, it's always about how good the romance side of it was, how well it was delivered. But this is the first time I can say that it was actually funny. Every episode, every scene just delivered. What the mangaka did, the storytelling, the hysterical comedy is genuinely perfect. But I just have to talk about how much of a great job A1, the voice actors and the overall production did. Throughout the series, so many scenes just wouldn't be nearly as good with any other studio. Like the rap scene in episode 5 is one of the best scenes this year, and you just couldn't put something like that in the manga. Despite a ton of comedic scenes, this season actually focused on romance and somehow, even this side of the story was able to deliver a lot better than others. It was actually really interesting to see how they came to the realization that they cannot just wait forever and actually have to confess, and in all honesty, it couldn't have been done any better. Love is War is a project that has been made with great passion, and I genuinely believe that it's a modern classic. If 1 year ago someone would have talked about Cyberpunk, all we could think about is a game that, let's just say, wasn't able to deliver. Possibly one of the most disappointing launch of a game we've ever seen. So then how were they able to make a good anime out of it? Well, it was made by Studio Trigger, and if there is one thing you have to know about them, is that they are able to make anything look good, no matter how bad the story was. The difference here was that Cyberpunk 2077 actually had a great setting with a pretty detailed world. We have different kind of groups like the Edgerunners or the corporations that own everything. We have unique mechanics like the cybernetic implants. All the anime needed was a decent story, and they absolutely delivered. Everyone knew it would look good, but the story itself surprised all of us. David both character and story-wise is insanely well written. It was brutal, there wasn't a single moment when they held back. He never had any kind of plot armor. It never felt like he's at a safe place, and I love it. Nothing is safe, no one is safe. Anyone can die at any moment and they won't hold back. It will be some of the most brutal stuff you've ever seen. Poverty is a huge problem, and if the only way for them to survive is by living outside the law, then they will be forced to do that. It's not a choice. I especially love the way the cybernetic implants work. It sounds really cool that the more they install, the stronger they become, but they are forced to do that. They are forced to become stronger, otherwise they die, otherwise they can't protect who they love. But if they install too many, they lose their mind. They have two choices, yet neither of them is a permanent solution. It's just so well written. Chainsaw Man is the most hyped up anime of all time, rivaling the numbers of something like Attack on Titan. It had a lot to prove, and it absolutely delivered. The first half of the story was an introduction to the world of Chainsaw Man, to its characters, to what's different, what's unique, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. I enjoyed the characters, the animation was top tier, but it was supposed to be something unique that does things in its own way, yet it felt as generic as possible. However, as soon as it started showing its true colors, it just never stopped getting better and better. Episode 8 was the turning point of the show. It reminded us what kind of world Chainsaw Man is, how your life can change from one moment to another. I just love the way the whole episode was written. It started out as something, interesting, and just turns into something genuinely awesome. The first half is really peaceful, calm, contains a lot of inner monologue, thoughts, memories, simple things. Then everything changes, and the way it was delivered was perfect. The way everything slowed down, no dialogue, the only thing you can hear is a calm yet frightening OST. It's just a scene that cannot be portrayed this way in the manga, and that's what made this adaptation so good. I just cannot explain how much I just love the direction of this anime, and how much it complements the music written for it. It displays our emotions, it sounds brutal when it needs to, it can sound frightening, it can sound like relief, it can portray so many emotions without any words, and I just love that. I especially love the last scene with Aki, where he smokes a cigarette. It didn't have any music nor any words, yet you absolutely knew what the scene meant. Chainsaw Man is just brutal, gore, full of emotions and characters that feel like humans with a complicated world that still has a lot of explaining to do, and I can't wait to see that. After 6 years, Mob Psycho ended and reached its conclusion. Like the most popular animes, Mob Psycho is also a shonen, yet it was able to deliver such a unique experience that will always stay with me. We all know what kind of writer one is. We already seen him deliver a manga with an insanely strong character, yet able to write it in an entertaining way. Mob Psycho was pretty similar to that, but what made it different was that it showed emotions through the main character. I just love that Mob didn't want to use his powers, that he genuinely wanted to become a better person. He could have ruled the world if he wanted to, he could have done anything with his powers, yet he focused on normal things like joining a club, working out, making friends, getting new clothes, confessing to his crush. Normal things that we all care about. At the end, he is no different from us, he is just a teenager. What complemented this was all the characters that helped him achieve his goal through the story. Reigen, despite being a trickster, he genuinely cared about Mob. Teruki changed thanks to Mob, and after that he was always there for him. The body improvement crew was just so nice, I love those guys. No matter how much behind Mob was, they always cared about him. It's just an endless line of characters, it wasn't a solo journey. It's an end that couldn't be written any better. Thank you Bones for caring this much about it, and thank you One for writing it. It was an amazing journey. I'm a huge fan of slice of life, of people's personal stories, but I never in my life thought that Bocchi the Rock would be the one that stands out the most. Without a question, one of the best animes I've ever seen that goes way beyond what a slice of life should be like. It's been so long since I felt this immersed in an anime. It's a slice of life with quite a simple premise, showcasing someone's desire to make friends, yet it does it in such a unique way that's just unexplainable. Its cinematography is perfect, the voice acting is amazing, I mean just listen to this. This wasn't edited, she actually sounds like that. They actually care about the music. I don't think I've ever seen an anime where the music was this well produced. It's a show about someone that has social anxiety. It's not the first time that we've seen something like that, I mean, Komi-san aired just recently, but it was nowhere near this well written. Bocchi has a really thoughtful approach towards social anxiety, which they present in a fun way that doesn't feel like victimizing. This combined with visuals that show off her energetic inner monologue in a really unique way which relates to you on a personal level that is relatable to a point that is just painful. So many great scenes, so many memorable moments. It being able to go from 0 to 100 in 10 seconds is what makes it so good. The usage of perspective, depth, with all these unique representatives of Bocchi's mind is hilarious. The amount of love and care Bocchi gets is just such a nice thing to see. It goes from making us conscious how we act in social situations to making us uncontrollably laugh, then leave us feel emotional whenever Bocchi gets closer to her goal. It's been an insane year of anime that I will never forget. My first actual year of watching most of the seasonal animes, and it was just such an insane journey. So many different animes, so many different emotions. I hope next year will be even better.